Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator, and today's video is highly anticipated, my phone interview with Kent Hovind's ex-wife, Cindi Lincoln. Just a few quick things before I play the interview. I will say that it is in two sections. The first was a call over Facebook Messenger, where for some reason Miss Cindi couldn't hear me, and the second part is a regular phone call where she was able to hear me. I would just ask my viewers to remember that Miss Cindi is a victim of a narcissistic abuser, and I'll be linking her the video, so she'll likely be reading the comments, so just be on your best behavior in the comment section, guys. And finally, I'm going to read a comment from her Facebook page. Dr. Hovind says this whole place was built by volunteers and donations. Actually, $133,000 of it was on a 20-year contract with me, which Dr. Hovind and Ernie Land have breached and fraudulently stolen from me. $133,000. They breached their contract, frauded the original contract to include hidden loopholes, intentionally to mislead me, and stole the money I plainly communicated was not donation, but which was earmarked for my retirement and livelihood. Kent Hovind and Ernie Land are con artists and thieves extraordinaire, masters of religious hypocrisy, which means actors, pathological liars who look you straight in the eye and string you along without remorse or empathy, classic textbook malignant narcissist. Wife number 4, and anyone thinking of selling everything to move there and serve God, don't do it. Run, run, run as fast as you can. He will promise you the moon and deliver the most painful discard, smear campaign, and gaslighting you've ever experienced. It took me almost 5 years to realize it. I loved Kent Hovind and the creation ministry with all my heart, mind, strength, and finances, only to be infuriatingly betrayed, backstabbed, lied to, stolen from, and slandered.
There's a couple of incidents I could share, one of which Mark Stoney would bear witness to. And then there's the 3 strikes, which were the thing that actually catapulted me out the door that also involved Steve.
Now, Steve, you're talking about Kent's tech guy, right?
Everybody on campus knows that Steve is the golden calf. And we don't know why. We're all speculating. You know, is there a money grab? Is there sex? What the hell? But we don't really know. And then I just read Mark's post, and he said that Steve told him at one time that he knows a secret that they don't want out. And so they basically placate to him to the extent that they will turn on me, his wife, who loved him and worked really hard in that ministry, which shows me they don't care about the ministry.
So,
anyway,
this is Steve, the tech guy, right?
When I thought Steve was still maybe good, I rented him my rental property. So when I came from California, at first I just took the rental income from my house in California, but then I decided to sell that place and get rental properties in Alabama instead. And Steve was my first tenant. I ended up having to evict him. And the day before he left, I was doing a video chat with a prospective tenant. And Steve was volatile and didn't allow me to have a key to my own house, didn't allow me on the property. So I stayed on the road while I was doing the tour. I was just showing the guy, okay, here's the empty field, here's the brand new roof, here's the well house, blah, blah, blah. Well, Steve came barreling out of the house, raging mad. You're harassing me, you effing this, I'm gonna sue you, this is an illegal eviction, effing this and effing bitch and all that. And I turned the camera on him, and I said, Steve, I am not harassing you, I'm just doing a video chat with a prospective tenant. You are not, you're... He goes back into the house and comes back a minute later with his right hand in his right pocket. I know Steve has guns. I knew exactly what was going on. It was concealed. I didn't see it. I can't prove it. But he was effing threatening me with a gun. I went home. I told my husband, honey, I think Steve just threatened me with a gun. My husband did nothing. Nothing. Later, I guess it was one day later, Steve moved out. He left my house unlocked, would not give me the keys, broke a window, took all the appliances, stripped it, took the thermostat off the wall, left bare wires hanging, took all the light fixtures, left bare wires hanging, cut the line to my dishwasher, so I had to have, anyway. I said, honey, will you please come and witness the damages that Steve did to my property? Dr. Hovind would not even look up from his phone. He said, I don't want anything to do with your for-profit property rentals. I'm like, what? You mean the income stream that's been funding your Dinosaur Adventureland? Now you don't want nothing to do with it. And you won't come and see the damages that your little golden boy did. So then that was strike 2. Strike 3. The next day, I overhear him telling Ernie Land, let's put Steve on the board. Let's promote Steve to the board.
The next day.
So not only did he not discipline Steve, did he not defend his wife, he actually promoted the guy. And he says to Ernie, that ought to get Cindi excited. Intentionally. In fact, I believe he actually was conspiring with Steve to trash my place.
Wow.
Anyway, that was strike 3. I realized, okay, Cindi, you are in enemy territory. You've been suspecting that they have been trying to drive you out for a year now. The writing's on the wall. That's what's happening. You're not wanted here. This man is your enemy. And so I left. And it was heartbreaking because Dr. Hovind has 2 different personalities. One of them was very sweet. And I loved him with all my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he disappeared or if it was a fake. Thank you for listening.
No, I understand. There's 2 sides to him, definitely.
I did the whole science center pretty much. Not all of it, actually. There was a girl from California that came and started it and got me going, but it was like the ministry of my heart. The Science Center tour is on my YouTube channel. It's about 9 hours long. And it was just a beautiful thing. So I lost not only my husband and my home and my family, because everybody there, we lived in community, you know, it was my family and my ministry. Dr. Hovind hasn't been able to find anybody to replace me in the Science Center. So he's tried to get me to come back and said that I misinterpreted the events and that it was not trying to drive me out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a pathological liar and a malignant narcissist.
I agree.
And I'm not the only one who thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
It just took me a long time to figure it out because he's such a good liar.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to believe that somebody who impacted the world with his seminar series, like millions of people. And, I mean, I heard him on the phone with people. He gets calls all day long, and he will patiently lead them through the scriptures and you might not understand this, but most Christians, they really want to be able to lead someone to the Lord and say that their life mattered and they did something for God. And he gets it like multiple times a week. The night that I moved out, he led somebody to the Lord on the phone. I'm just like, I don't get this. I don't get this. I don't get it. But I talked to a marriage counselor one time, and he said, Cindi, you would be surprised how much of this happens in the church. I said, but he's a pastor. He's supposed to be a godly man. And the counselor just said, Cindi, you'd be shocked. It's really, really common. I'm not a Baptist. I never was a Baptist, but I guess Dr. Hovind is a Baptist, and I guess it's particularly common in them. And after I bought this place where I'm living now, where Steve got evicted out of, I was looking for another place, because this place it was paying a fraction of the rental income that I was used to from California, and so it takes basically 3 Alabama rental incomes to equal what I was making off of my California house. And so basically I had to dump like $30,000 into repairs on this place in addition to the purchase price. So I said to my husband, I said, honey, I really don't need another house with the repair problems and the tenant problems. What I really just need is to replace my income from California. I said, I think I have a great idea. What about if instead of spending another $130,000 on another Alabama rental, what if I put that into Dinosaur Adventureland and you guys give me a rent check every month? Basically like an annuity or an investment for exchange. And he said, let me talk to Ernie. Ernie is the ministry financier, cohort in crime,
right,
fellow gaslighter, scumbag, putrefied. Anyway, okay, you get the message. So Ernie wrote up this contract, and he called it spousal support, and he wrote it up for 20 years instead of lifetime, because when you buy a house you can rent it for your life and then you still have the house at the end of that. Anyway, when I asked him about that, I said, well, this isn't spousal support. He said, yeah, but it's not legal for a ministry to do an investment, and so we have to write it up like this for ministry regulations or tax reasons or something like that. And I thought, okay, well, I don't really care what you call it as long as I get my money. And well, you know the rest of the story. I trusted him, I trusted my husband. I thought that I had a legally binding contract, and in fact I had a fraud. And later on, they claimed that I wasn't being a submissive spouse, and therefore I didn't get my money. And I said, Ernie, this was not a contingent contract on your evaluation of my performance as a wife. And he said, oh, yes, it is. It's called spousal support.
Let me guess, you weren't being a Proverbs 21 wife or something like that?
31.
31.
Yes, sir. Or Ephesians 5, or 1 Corinthians, or whatever the heck those stupid scriptures are that I've heard 50 million times. And Sarah, who called Abraham Lord.
Yeah.
The F word is really close to coming out right now.
Now I understand.
Okay, let me make this clear, okay? I am a Bible believer. I do believe in respecting my husband. I do even believe in submitting, but not to lies,
Mm-hmm.
not to slander, not to abuse. And I tried to explain this to him on multiple occasions, thinking, oh, well, we're all wrong on some of our doctrine. Dr. Hovind needs a revamp on that doctrine. So I tried to explain to him, look, you were a military man, right? Your dad was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
In the military, you're supposed to submit also. However, you have a right called conscientious objection. If your commander tells you to do something that is against your conscience, you don't have to obey. And I gave him the example of Bonnie and Clyde. Okay, let's say Clyde wants to rob a bank. Well, Bonnie doesn't have to submit to that. Bonnie can say, I'm sorry, I don't believe in that, and I'm not going to do it. And at one point I actually said to him, something slipped out about abuse from his mouth. And I said, wait a minute. Did you just say that a wife has to submit to abuse? And it took him like 5 stinking minutes to answer. And he finally said, no, but actually, I don't think that's what he believes. I think the wife, in his twisted mind, is supposed to submit under all circumstances.
Well, if you look back at what he originally went to jail for, the structuring, the structured withdrawals, the actual withdrawals from the bank, there were 45 counts, and each withdrawal was made not under his name, but under his first wife's name. He made her make the withdrawals because I think he thought that he wouldn't get in trouble if her name was on it. To me, it's evidenced by the fact that her name is on the withdrawals. It seems to me that he knew he was doing something wrong, because if you know how controlling he is with money, it doesn't seem like he would. It seems like he would make the withdrawals himself. You know what I mean? Especially because it's like $9,500 each time. But he had her do it. And this was 45 times in a row.
And she submitted.
Right.
And yes, so that just bears witness to what he did in the courtroom. That, he said something trying to blame her. I guess the issue in the courtroom was authority. He was trying to say that she was the decision maker because he was out of town so much, and therefore she would be responsible for the decisions made to structure those withdrawals.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, no, sir, I was actually obeying him. Even though he's out of town, he's still telling me what to do.
Right.
I forget where I read that. I think Theo Valentine has had something up about that where I read that.
Yeah, I talked to Theo too. I did an interview with him, and it was very informative about Kent.
Yeah, he's raging mad. Now, I do have to say, when I was first, a few years ago, I used to listen to Theo to try and see if he was correct and if I was moving into a place that I would be in danger, or that I should move off. I actually moved off when Mary moved off. Mary and I were friends, and when she moved and gave me her reasons for leaving, I left too. And then basically she was afraid that the IRS and the FBI were going to raid the place, and she wasn't going to risk her damn freedom the way Joe did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back on campus to visit my friends because I missed my family here so much. And I explained to them why I left, and they said, well, the IRS already came, the feds already came, and nothing happened. And Mary's exaggerating, and you'd be fine, Cindi. And so I moved back at that point. But anyway, during that time I was watching a bunch of Theo's stuff, and I I have to disagree with like 80% of it. He exaggerates, or, like, for example, the little boy who died. Okay, I agree, Dr. Hovind was callous. But the death was not Dr. Hovind's fault. Many of us have swam in that lake, and there's nothing unsafe any more than any other public lake or public beach. The death was not Dr. Hovind's fault.
Well,
but he was definitely callous in how he handled it.
yeah, I agree. I think I would say that the parents should have been supervising more, although, it might not directly be his fault, but I do think that they should have some sort of lifeguards there while there are kids swimming. But yeah, his reaction was definitely not the best that it could have been. It was very callous, like you said. So I would agree with that.
Well, the very first time I started looking for help in our marriage, I typed in to my Google bar, what do I do when my husband won't believe me when I'm telling the truth? And all this stuff about narcissism came up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And one of the top traits of a narcissist is that they have no empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that ties in with the little boy. But it's very strange because Dr. Hovind lost 3 children.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess it's something that I don't understand at all. I lost a son too, and Dr. Hovind was very tender to me, and I don't know if he was just faking it, but for the first year, we were like best friends. And
well, I think that's kind of called like the honeymoon period. And
love bombing.
yeah, see, that's part of it as well.
I guess I haven't completely swallowed that part of it because it just seemed so real.
Well, the important thing to remember is that, intelligent people can get tricked by a narcissist too, and
yeah.
You're the victim in this situation. It's not, your fault if you got into a bad situation, because it's hard to get out when you're in a situation like that. And people from the outside might think that, oh, this person should just leave. But when you're behind, enemy lines, like you said, it's a lot different. And so I commend you for leaving at all, because there are a lot of women that are in abusive situations and they never get out, they're stuck there.
No idea how Joe did it for 43 years.
Yeah, I don't know. She's a strong woman, and I think you are as well. So, I commend you for that.
I was talking to Mark Stoney today. He's broken. I guess he was, long story, that other story that I didn't share because I wanted to save time, but that incident that I was going to tell you about, Mark Stoney was part of that. And after this incident where they turned everybody against me, Mark wouldn't really be my friend or talk to me much. He was still my friend, but he was afraid to be seen talking to me or he'd be kicked off campus. And so he just recently had a breaking where he realized that that was wrong of him to do, and he was participating in it, and basically he's been crying for 3 days and he's going public now.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll have to look into that because I don't know who that is, but I'll look into that.
Yes, but he said to me today, he said, Cindi, all of us were watching what he was doing to you, and we all were saying, why is she still here? And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought I was being a good Christian wife, and I was going to stand. This is my 3rd marriage. And so I was determined that I was not going to have another divorce. And I was going to just do everything that I could to keep our marriage together. But
Well, I think you did the right thing.
I can't aid and abet, and that's what it ended up being. I was watching people get hurt, and if I stay there, then I'm an accomplice.
Yeah.
And just by standing next to him, it makes it look like he's something that he's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
I agree. Well, I think you've definitely, I think you've given me enough material. I don't want to keep you too long, Cindy, but
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing all this with me.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, like I said, it's gonna take a little while for things to get back to normal. But I think the thing to remember is just that, in my opinion, you're not at fault in this situation. You basically got sort of tricked by somebody who's a professional at this. Like you said, he's tricked an awful lot of people, and it's just, you shouldn't beat yourself up about it, because I think you're a strong person, and I think you'll recover from this situation. So I hope things go well for you in the future.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to talk with me about this, just let me know.